All right, this video is about how to use Equation Editor in Word for math symbols. Equation Editor is something that is free. It's already actually a part of all Word documents and everything. You just may not know how to use it. So, sorry, I got some noise out here. Let me stop the highlighting. All right, the easiest way to get to Equation Editor is to hit the Alt button and the plus key at the same time. When you hit Alt plus, you're going to have this whole new option up here. There's this new tab that's called Equation, and then there's all sorts of great things that you can do in here. So some of the options, first of all, there's a ton of symbols, this drop-down menu. You can see it allows you to do plus or minus, infinity, does not equals, different operations, factorials, the less than and greater than symbols, minus plus, congruency, arrows like for limit notation, etc., different types like delta, degrees, all sorts of things like that. It also has a multiplier right here, and some other things. Now, if you change this, you can get, there's Greek letters that you can access, symbols, many of these are Greek letters too, but just different symbols, operators. So this has all of your different operations on here, including some that we would never use in high school. Arrows. So if you wanted to draw a variety of types of arrows and symbols, negated relationships, so all of the does not equal to, things for set notation. Scripts just allows you to have like cursive and things like that, and just like your all reals and some of the fun stuff like that. And then there's geometry, which is helpful because this symbol can be hard to draw. And then just like parallel lines and things like that that you might use. I'm just going to go to the basic math here. So if I wanted to type an equation, maybe I want to type y equals, sorry, I've got everything bolded. Let me undo that. So just hit Control B to undo that. Y equals, if I want to do like 1/3, the long way is to hit the fraction button, and then there's different forms you can use for the fractions, like straight up and down or sideways, etc. There's even, notice some of your derivative notation and common ones like pi over 2. So I could click this and then click inside like 1/3 and then arrow over, and then continue my equation. A faster way, a shortcut, is to just use the / bar. So if I did 1, oops, sorry, I'm not in my equation editor anymore. Let me arrow to get back in to see the little box. That's how I know I'm in there. If I did 1/3, 1/3, and then hit space, it will default to straight up and down. So if I wanted to do like 1/3 of x, x squared, I could use the power button above 6, so shift, get that caret squared, and if I hit enter, it will automatically just pop that in, +5. Or plus 5x, whatever. There's a nice equation that's typed in there, and it is just easy to get all of the fractions and things like that in there. So some shortcuts for keystrokes is you can use that as the fraction button. You can use this as the power button, and that's really, really nice. And those tend to be the ones that people use the most. There are other ones that you can use. Okay, some Algebra 1 things that might be helpful. I'm just going to get back into Equation Editor. I'm going to hit Alt plus. So Algebra 1, obviously, lots of equations and factoring and things like that you will be working on. So let's say you're doing exponentials. Y equals, sorry, I keep forgetting that I've had this in bold. Y equals 5 to the power of x. Notice how that, if I just hit the power button, it just processes that, -3. That's really great. Sometimes in Algebra 1, depending on our standards, they might have you do matrices. So if I wanted to do a matrix, I could do that with this button right here. And what I typically, like, these will give you the little portions, but it doesn't have the symbols around it. So this right here under brackets is usually what I would do first. And then I would enter in, okay, I know I'm going to want these square brackets around my matrix. And then if I click inside and go to matrix, maybe I want a 2x2 or a 2x3. Now, if the one I want is not on here, I could click this and click it again, etc. But maybe I just want a 2x2, and then I can type in here. whatever I'd like it to be. I could make this an equation and make another matrix. I could multiply this if I really wanted the multiplication symbol. It's right there. And I could multiply this, and we could talk about dimensions. Let me get my bracket in there again. And notice how this will adjust, right? Oops, did something wrong there. Let's try that again. I want to be inside the brackets in order to adjust that matrix. And so I could draw all of that in there. Okay, whatever I wanted that to look like, blah, blah, blah. And notice it's automatically in Word right away, which is really great. Some other Algebra 1 stuff is you often have piecewise. So let's say I wanted to do like f of x equals something. Let me get out of my bold here. Oops. Sorry, that is my laptop, not equation editor causing that problem. So notice also this gives you the nice italicized variables and everything. And then if I want this to equal maybe a certain piecewise function, sometimes this may not be the window, so you might have to click it again if you've been outside of it. I'm going to do under bracket. Oh, actually, I think, yep, I can do these stacks and cases. Maybe I just want a certain one. This one's actually kind of nice. I forgot that I could have done that, and that actually already puts in the f of x. And then what I can do is I can change this. Maybe I wanted this to be x squared, negative x squared. Maybe I wanted this to be the absolute value of x. I'm just going to highlight that, and I'm going to change the bracket around this to absolute value, which is here. And maybe I wanted it to say absolute value of x plus 3. If I don't want the change to be at 0, I could easily change that. If I wanted this one to be less than or equal to, I could change that really easily as well. But it has everything all spaced out with you for like the different domain restrictions, which is really, really nice. And so that's pretty fantastic that we can do that. All right, so some geometry things. If you are needing to do directions for a geometry problem, it's really nice because there's a lot of stuff in here that you can use. So let's see. If I go under geometry, if I wanted to talk about the measure of an angle, sorry, I keep having that as bold. It pulls whatever font you last had, and I had everything in bold here. So if I wanted to do the measure of an angle, and then I wanted the angle symbol, the measure of angle ABC is equal to 30. I could do that in here. If I wanted, rather than using the measure symbol, I wanted to use maybe angle D is equal to 45 degrees. The degree symbol, I'm not sure why it's not in geometry. It's under basic math, maybe because degrees isn't always just used for angles. I could use that. Something like that to give some nice directions. It also has under geometry the perpendicular symbols, which is really nice. So maybe I wanted to say GH is perpendicular to BC. I could do that. If I wanted to put in maybe like arrows right here, I could highlight something and go under accent. And I could choose the symbols for lines and for arrays, depending on what I wanted it to look like. Which is great. Now, doing the arc symbol is really tough no matter where you're at. I had to look this up in the past, and I have forgotten to do it, so let me look it up again. How to draw the arc symbol in equation editor. There is a way. I just didn't teach geometry this year, so I don't remember it. Let's see. All right, so if you type the letters you need under the arc symbol, okay, and then, so you type the letters in parentheses, and then looks like / over parentheses, period. Let's see. Type the following with the letters in the parentheses, so / over parentheses. Let's try it. Sorry, wrong thing. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do the arc. So I'm going to do, I think it was a slash first. This is the backwards slash. So backwards slash over parent, was it over parent? Sorry, evidently the brain doesn't work anymore. Over parent, and then parentheses, BC. There it goes. And that gets you the nice arc symbol. I think there is a different way that I've used in the past, but that will work because this symbol is very, very hard to draw. And if you look under the different accents, there's not one that's quite there like it, which is unfortunate. They have these funky ones that we've used in the past, and they're close, but they're not quite. So I'll put this under here under shortcuts if you want to do the arc symbol. You would type over parent, the backslash first. Must be a command, over parent, and then parentheses, and then put the letters like CD. And that'll get it for you. All right, some Algebra 2 stuff. I think it's very similar to the Algebra 1 with the matrices, etc. So I don't know if there's anything new there. Pre-calc with Trig. Your Trig notation is in here, which is super nice. Let's see. All right, if I go under sine, not only is there sine, cosine, and tangent, which is great, and all of those, it spaces it out nicely, but this is probably the biggie. We've got all, oh, I forgot, I'm in bold. We've got all of the inverse trig function notations. No, that makes no sense. So all of the inverse trig notation is in there, which is awesome because sometimes people try to like insert powers, which is kind of tough. Not that you can't do it. Oh, by the way, something else that's in here are subscripts. So under this, there's not only e to the x, or not only the powers, but there's also the subscripts, which is in here, and some common ones if you wanted to use certain common ones that are in here. But that's really nice if you needed to do, you know, like x sub 2. Or x sub 1 evidently is what I'm doing. Also in f of x, you've got all of your different radical notation, and you can choose the cube roots and the square roots easily. Quadratic formulas in there. If I just wanted to pop that down, I could do that. I could also choose what index I want to do. This is kind of nice for geometry. You could do that, which is really great. Something else that's nice for pre-calc with trig is that you've got your limit notation in here. Oh, and Algebra 2, I guess Algebra 2, I'll add that in. We could do all of the logs. So the limit notation is in here as well, which is great. And then you would use the arrows. I'm just going to go back under basic math, and I could pick, you know, the arrows that I want as x approaches. And it's nice because we do have the infinity symbol in here, which is great. Under Algebra 2, if I wanted to do logs, I could do that. It's also under limit and logs. And you could do, of course, whatever base you'd like to do. There was a natural log in there if you wanted to see that. Evidently, I've been very busy typing all sorts of things. Now, something else that's kind of nice is like maybe you were typing a word problem and you're like, I don't really want the directions to be italicized, and maybe I didn't like that. I could just highlight something and hit Control I to un-italicize something. I could do bold with Control B, whatever I wanted to do. And then if I wanted to, but then if I typed f of x from here, notice I'm not going to get that nice kind of pretty notation. So I'd hit Control I again to go back to the default of italicized notation on here. For statistics, we do have some notation that could be helpful for probability and statistics. First of all, there was all of the set notation that showed up, like in all of this and some of the other operators. We've got some set notation in here, which is really great, which is fantastic. We also have under accents, you can do just some of your basic notation, like for mean and etc. like that. Oh, wow, that was the wrong one. I didn't think I was attaching that one. But we do have all of that available in here. I think my eyes are old. There we go. So, you know, if you wanted to use some of that notation in here, and of course, obviously with standard deviation and things like that, we have all the Greek letters that we need to be using. Calc, oh, something else for pre-calc and also for calculus is you have the large operators like your summation notation, which is really great. The one thing I don't like is even if you put the limits here, it doesn't show. Oh, I guess it does. Oh, good. So as n goes from 1 to infinity, etc. on this, you could put all of that in there. Let's see. Let me go back. You can get pretty familiar with these as you go, which is kind of nice. And again, I just can't have everything in bold because that's just how I set up this document. So that's pretty nice that you can do that. You could also choose to have these limits written sideways if you'd rather. All right, for the calculus, there's all sorts of notation here for derivatives that you could select, as well as integrals. So that's pretty good. So under your fraction notation, you can see there's some notation for dy dx, which is great if you're talking about some derivatives. There's also all of the integral notation is in here for both a definite or an indefinite, or if you were really like going crazy with lots of different integrals, you can see that's in there. We've got the little differentials for in here, which is great. And it's nice sometimes to have some of the ones that already have the theta. You don't have to go seek out that variable. And again, all of the limit notation is in here, including some fun ones that maybe show up a lot. There's the natural log. So all of those operations are in here. I have not really used this very much. Looks like there's some nice, there's some rays in here that would be pretty easy to use. And again, some stuff for like if you're in geometry and you're talking about maybe you're looking at some notation here for manipulating conditional statements. There's some nice stuff in there as well. So I think those are pretty much the basics. There's probably more that I don't know, but it's pretty nice and easy to use.